Funny what you remember, isn't it? Excellent. You happy to have a chat about all things Reckless Love?
Yeah, let's do that.
Brilliant. Okay, we've now got Ollie on the line from Reckless Love, talking about, you've got a brand new album out, and it's your 6th studio album. That's about
actually 5th.
5th, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Sorry, 5th. I can't read my own notes here. Now, this is looking at this is 4, 5, 6 years since the release of Invader. Why the pause? I mean, COVID and world pandemic aside, why the gaps between albums?
Yeah, it was mostly bad luck because of the COVID, of course. The pause wasn't supposed to be this long. Naturally, we just because we toured for 2 years after Invader came out, the 4th album, which was it was the biggest and most successful tour we had done so far. So we did quite a long period of touring after releasing that album, and after that we had worked for 8 years straight, basically. 2018, I remember having a conversation with our guitarist Pepe, who was my creative partner, and because he had still has his little daughter, and he was just thinking out loud that maybe we should, at some point during our careers, maybe we should have a little break from touring, because he would love to see his kids grow and spend a little time with the family as well, because we were constantly on and off from touring, like 2 weeks at home, then 2 months on the road. So I completely got his, I knew what he meant immediately. And we decided that it's time to take a little break. And our intention was to keep it like a year, take a sabbatical, basically, like a year and a half. And a year and a half was pretty close to the truth. We actually booked another huge tour after the break was supposed to be over. So we wanted to book a huge 10th anniversary world tour in celebration of the first album, the debut album. And we started the tour from Australia. I think we did 3 shows out of 5 after the COVID thing exploded into our lives. We were supposed to go to Japan, do Europe after that, and UK, of course, tour Finland, go to Latin America, Mexico, Brazil, pretty much the whole shebang. We could have toured the whole world. But instead of that, 2 years later, we're still here postponing tours, which is a bummer. But and it was really just bad luck, basically. So, part of the reason why it took so long, 4 years of doing nothing, basically, but an album.
So this would have been 10 years of Reckless Love, the debut album, then, would it? And that was what the tour was initially on the back of celebrating that milestone.
Yeah, 2020 was because we released the debut album in 2010. So that was a huge tour we had booked for 2020, and we actually we released the 10-year anniversary single too, Loaded, which went pretty well. I mean, people still write us daily about the song and wondering why it didn't end up on the record. Well, it didn't end up on the record because it was meant to be like a 10-year anniversary one-off single, just in celebration of the tour, to support the whole tour thing. And we originally meant to actually write the whole album separately from that single. So it all went according to the plan, but instead of the touring.
now it's making me feel old, because I think it was Beautiful Bomb. I think that was the single that first came across you guys, which was, of course, off the debut album. And in fact, you're now telling me that's 10 years old, then that's I'd have sworn about 4 or 5 years, but you're now telling me it's 10, and you're absolutely right. But
imagine how I feel after 10 years on the road.
And now you're back with Turborider, which is a distinctly different sounding album to Invader. It's very 80s synth pop metal which is your intention, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely, it's got that sort of vibe to it. Why have you decided to go down that sort of that route? And it is a sort of a themed album, isn't it, to a certain extent?
It is. It's a concept for the album. It's totally that, and the vision was clear from the get-go. We always knew that we had to go through some sort of a rebirth before, just to make it back. Because after we realized that this break is going to take longer than expected, and it started to feel like forever. I mean, 6 years away from the studio, it changes you. It's more than half of a decade. So it's we grew old basically during that time, and the music didn't. And it changes you. All the experiences and what comes to you in life. I mean, I just lost a really close friend of mine a year ago, Alexi Laiho from Children of Bodom. We played in the same band called the Local Band, and of course, what seemed like an endless series of postponement of the tours. It was a rough 2 years during the pandemic. I mean, in Finland, it's been a complete lockdown, and I would be lying if I claimed that all those things didn't have an effect. So it didn't feel like the old us going back into the studio, like back in 2010. We were under 30. We were young guys with a backpack on our backs, like ready to tour the world and see the world and experience everything. And and I think it was something that had always kind of like followed us since the beginning. Even on the first record, we toy with those type of sounds on a song called Back to Paradise. So there's always been that side that we had always kind of like cherished the 80s Simmons electric drum sounds and all the synthesizers, the sequences and everything. I think it comes from the Van Halen 5150 album, basically. The Why Can't This Be Love type of synth sounds, and I'd add David Lee Roth's Skyscraper album, which Just Like Paradise. We actually we came across the same bass synthesizer he used on that exact song, and you can hear that on the record. We went total nerd on the 80s stuff on this album, and all the ZZ Top, Eliminator, Afterburner type of stuff. What could I mention? I mean, Billy Idol's whole career basically is based on those type of sounds. And Judas Priest's Turbo, one of my favorites, my all-time favorite albums. I mean, those are the early influences that actually kind of like kept us going during the hard times, and I think that's the reason why they're kind of like reflected so well on the album and in the sound in the sound, because we also wanted to make it modern. I mean, those albums that I just mentioned were done 40 years ago, so we just didn't want to like do something that was already done 40 years ago. What's the point of that? And I had come across this new genre called synthwave, which is pretty much like it's kind of like an electronic new genre. And I came across it through a movie called Drive with Ryan Gosling in it. It was years ago, but I noted that this is a new type of thing. And I fell in love with that genre, and I didn't know how to apply that to anything, basically. But I realized that there's a common ground in the influences there, that I can hear the same type of sounds as my favorite bands used back in the 80s. And that kind of reminded me of the days that I was a teenager, spending my time in the local arcade playing all the Sega rallies and air hockeys, and exchanging records, CDs with my friends. That's pretty much like it was like an escape from all of it, like from the pandemic depression into the what seemed like a really like a dystopian kind of memory of the 80s. That's pretty much it. That's where the sound came from. And I told our guitarist Pepe about my idea of mixing the modern synthwave type of production into those super, I mean, crazy, all that late 80s craziness that went on with the synthesizers, and mentioned him that we've already kind of like toyed with those type of sounds on every record. Even actually, even on the Invader, there's Scandinavian Girls and Child of the Sun that kind of like plays with the same kind of type of ideas. And he got so inspired by that, and he just like, I remember I think it was 2 days later when he replied to me that I've written this track called I'm not sure what the working title was, but it ended up being on the record called Kids of the Arcade. And that's one of the first demos that I heard from him, and I just like, all right, we got something here. This is kind of like the direction. This comes out really naturally. It was already in our DNA, basically, hiding in there somewhere. We just had to find it. And what do you know? Just go back to the source. Those first influences that you get as a kid, those are tough to beat. Pretty much impossible. You're in such a impressionable age when you're a kid, and the first bands that you hear, those are kind of like the ones that stick with you through the journey.
Because I mean, it is a strange combination of sort of genres. But having said that, I've noticed in the last year or so, I've had an awful lot of that sort of synth metal, synth rock, I don't know what you want to call it, but yours isn't the only one that I've been sent through. And I think when I first initially heard the new single from Reckless Love, I thought, what's this? It doesn't sound like Reckless Love. It sounds a bit, and then you listen to it and then you think, oh, hang on, and because it's got that Reckless Love vibe to it, yet it's got that sort of synth drum, but it's got the cutting guitars, and it's one of these where I think on first listen I wasn't certain, and then on second listen, and then a third listen, and now I've played it half a dozen times, and I'm thinking, oh, this is I really like this. But it's I sort of think it's a it's a I guess it's a bold move to change your style, but yet it isn't. It's morphing into something new, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, thank you so much for first of all for the effort of keeping just listening to it over and over again, because it actually takes effort. Some people are completely put off by the just what I see as a slight change in style. I'm just amplifying, turning one side of Reckless Love or the influences or that flavor up to 11. Basically, that's that's the way I see it. But I realize that, of course, it sounds way different because everybody's got their own sort of references where they compare us to. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I really get what you're saying. I mean, even in Finland, there's like 3 bands that have actually kind of like they've introduced those same type of Simmons, 80 Simmons electric synthesizer drums into their music. But I think we just like I'm not really sure that anybody ever went this far with it. I mean, we kind of like true to Reckless Love fashion, we pretty much turned it up to 11. I mean, the Turborider single is actually the most streamed Reckless Love song to date. So it's basically doing so well in Spotify that we've never seen this before, and it's been added to synthwave lists as well, which is pretty wild considering that we're still a sleaze rock band. But I think that's kind of like the beauty of it. I don't think, I mean, Reckless Love isn't the type of band like, we're not like AC/DC. It's kind of like, and don't get me wrong, I love AC/DC. They're brilliant, and I wouldn't want them to change at all. But I mean, I think I would compare us in, we got some, our spirit is more similar to maybe to Queen, basically. So that we need to evolve to survive, because we like to keep things interesting and exciting, both for the listeners, but first and foremost to us as well. Because I mean, for ourselves, it's what makes us tick. And we need to do it, because that, if it doesn't come out of the heart, it's it's not worth doing.
Because I'm only hesitant now because when talking about touring dates, I've spoken to enough bands who 3 weeks later have cancelled their tour, but you are due to be over here in the next few weeks, starting off a UK tour. Now, I suppose, that's very exciting to be able to see you guys live again. But how does then Turborider fit into the set? Because your gig is filled up with these sleaze rockers wanting to jump up and down, and then you're introducing this synth wave songs in there. I imagine that you can't. Do you have to box clever in how you drop the new songs into the set, given the slightly different change in style to what people might be expecting?
First, I need to bring you the bad news. I see that you haven't got the message from our social media, or I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago that we announced the postponement of the tour. It's now booked it's in September. Pretty much all of the tour. Yeah,
I don't think I have. But if I was to say I was surprised, that would it would not be the case. But that's very distressing to hear, but not in the least bit surprising given where we are.
With a heavy heart, Jesus Christ, it's the third time that we do this for the same tour, and it's it's something that we just cannot help. It's the uncertainty in the world that just forces our hand, because we could do some of the touring. It would be possible maybe to come to the UK and do a leg of the UK leg of the tour, but then again, there's a huge crew that we have to drag along with us. Reckless Love is 8 people minimum. It's just 4 people on stage, but we do have our front of house, our backline technician, our light tech, bus driver. Then there's actually we got a merchandise personnel. So it's at least 9 people on the tour. And now with Omicron, somebody's gonna get it. And if anybody from the crew gets it, that's when the officials are gonna stop the tour. We can't do shows anymore, because that's when that one person is put into quarantine, and we're all exposed to that. So it goes differently in different countries, but basically the European tour would be, cut in the middle of the tour, which would suck big time, even bigger than just postponing it, because then that would mean going pretty much bankrupt on the tour, and nobody can afford it now, because we've sat on our asses for 2 years and basically just waited everything to happen. So
what do you do now then? Well, here you are with a brand new album. You're at the starting gates. You're releasing singles. There's videos out there now. Presumably, the next step is to get out and tour that. So does that mean you won't be able to do that anywhere near the extent that you wanted?
Yeah, it's the option that we face now is not the ideal one, but it's not the worst one. The worst option would have been to postpone the tour by a year, but now we're gonna have to wait 6 months, which is pretty much still within the range of doing a Turborider tour, and we still consider that as being the same tour, and we're gonna treat it that way. And we do have some treats for the fans. People have been waiting for this album to be released. And there's going to be some stuff that we're going to do this spring as well. And our plan now is to start from Finland, where actually the situation is the grimmest there is. Finnish government has done a horrible job with the restrictions. So we're pretty much in lockdown as we speak, which is insane, because Finland is not doing any worse than any other country. And you can go to shows in the UK, right?
Yeah.
We can't here. We can't have any rock and roll shows here in Finland at the moment, which sucks big time. But there is a major change happening. They've given us their promise to eliminate all the restrictions by the end of this month. And right now the plan is to go on tour by the late of, I think the first show is booked in March, latter part of March, then do some shows here in Finland in April, start the festivals in May. We're actually coming over to the UK. Call of the Wild festival is happening in the UK in May, and that's when we're heading over to UK anyway.
Okay.
After that is summer festivals, and then we're gonna do the tour that we were supposed to do in March. But yeah, that's the plan right now. On what comes to the set list, you'd be surprised. I mean, we still had our tour rehearsal. That was just like last weekend, even though the tour was postponed because we had booked Tavastia Club here in Helsinki. So we did have a massive sound system that we could like record it. We could listen to it ourselves and check out how the new songs work live. And these new songs, these kick ass, man. It's gonna take the band to a new level. And actually, as I said, we've been toying with those type of sounds before, so it's not as far of a reach as you might think. I mean, the old songs that we're introducing into the set list are actually going to make it quite a fun combo. It's kind of like a hybrid. And we're bringing the electric drums into the live set as well. We're bringing all the synthesizers in there as well. So it's a nice little twist that we're giving to it, but it really takes it to a next level. It's gonna blow your minds. We're so excited about it ourselves. And as I said, it's a hybrid. So Hessu's gonna have both the traditional acoustic drums and the electric sensors in there as well. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be massive.
Oh, excellent. It's just a shame we're going to have to wait possibly 6 months longer than we had planned to see it, but we will get to see it.
As eternal optimists, like the guys who always want to look on the bright side of things, look at it this way. Now we can perfect the set list for 6 months before heading over to the UK. So we're in the best shape of our lives when we reach the UK.
Because you've had a couple of singles, Eyes of a Maniac and then Turborider. Does this mean, and normally you'd expect a couple of singles to come off an album, does this mean that there potentially could be more singles? If you can't get out and tour that, will there be the opportunity to do, I think I saw pictures on Facebook of you recording Turborider to a lot of green screen. So the ability to release other singles and continue to feed things through to fans via social media and things like that, does that become more of an option now than perhaps you would have done if you hadn't gone out there on tour?
That's pretty much the option we're looking into right now. Can't make any promises, but the desire is to maybe do more videos, and maybe, I mean, the stream shows are a bit of a pain in the ass to actually prepare it. I mean, people think that it's easy to do, but it's actually just making a TV show. So it's really expensive to do a worldwide stream. So we're not looking into a straight up streamable show instead of the tour, but I think we have an ace up our sleeve. We do have the surprise coming up live wise as well. So just keep following our social media accounts. I can't talk more about it right now, but there might be something just to compensate a little bit.
And I'm pretty certain you can tell me. I wouldn't tell a soul. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, and when? So when will we see? Is that something that's going to come out imminently? What you're potentially teasing, is that something that we can look forward to sooner rather than later?
I think sooner rather than later, because of course we're gonna make it public as soon as we possibly can. But right now there's so many things happening that it's, at least for me, with this color of my hair, it's impossible to keep up with everything. Because I mean, there's. I'm not sure if you heard about the Peacemaker TV show, because the lead single from Invader album Monster got cast into this HBO's superhero TV show, which is actually the most streamed show in the world as we speak.
Oh my god!
And that's caused a huge, an explosion of demand of Reckless Love music, basically. So Monster is making a whole different kind of it's another thing it's creating plenty of positive problems for us. I mean, I just actually, like 5 minutes before we started this interview, I just heard that the song is playing in the sports arenas in the USA. So yeah, that can mean a big, that can be a big break for us as well. I don't know. I'm not sure what it means for us, but right now there are so many plans layering on top of each other, and we're actually looking into 2023 at the moment. So we're already selling shows to 2023, and there's unfortunately, because I'm bound by the contracts, I cannot tell you everything yet, but there are there are some dates and there are some big news coming up, like in the very near future. So we're gonna be very vocal about those plans when they realize.
So how did that Peacemaker track, was it something that were you approached to use it in the show, or was it just picked, or how much involvement did you have in that?
Approximately a year ago, we got a message from I'm not sure what it was. It was a company that's involved with the production of the TV series, and they like basically wrote us a letter that the director James Gunn wants to use this exact song for a certain sequence in the series, and we got this like written. The whole scene was written out as a synopsis of the scene, and how would the song be used. And all I basically remember from it that we negotiated a little bit of the terms, and they pretty much were willing to just make an agreement, because the director really wanted to use that. Of course, we didn't know anything about the series at that time, and we couldn't have expected it to make such a huge success. I mean, superhero movies, TV shows, pretty much everywhere nowadays. So to put it like in a bad way, they're dime a dozen. there's so many of them. But I mean, James Gunn, he's such a genius of a director. The show is actually I had to, because I thought that I'm just gonna watch the episode with our song in it. But then I realized that, Jesus Christ, I have to watch the whole show. It's amazing. It's actually written so well. It's funny. It's it's touching. It's everything that you don't expect a superhero TV show to be. It's very, very interesting, and I love it. He used the whole song. The whole song is playing in the show in its entirety. So that was insane. I really loved that.
Which song is it they're using? Because this is all breaking news to me. So I'm playing catch up now. What song are they using?
Monster,
of course. Yes.
The name of the song is Monster.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Okay, that's fantastic. And does that open the doors to other Reckless Love songs being used, or presumably it's just exposure for you, isn't it? Because people are now going back and looking at Invader. They're looking back at previous albums. They're looking back at.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's our. We wrote the song, so the contract was, it didn't make us rich, but it was like, it wasn't like we didn't have to give it them for free. So we actually got compensated for it, and we thought that that's the best part. But no, it's not. It's the exposure is huge, and I mean, a year ago when we first got that, it felt like, of course we had, it got like we high-fived each other, and that's crazy. That's so cool. But yeah, it's a dream come true for sure.
Excellent.
And yeah, go ahead.
It must be slightly strange for people who go and check out Monster and then listen to the Turborider album on the back of that, because again, that, like you say, we're going back to that shift in styles. But I suppose the important thing is that they are getting into reckless stuff, and if they like Monster, then they're going to like Turborider. It's just a change. It's just a shifting gears, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. And I think that pretty much all the people that have given me feedback about it, whether they liked it or not, they kind of like see the logical kind of path that the evolvement of the music went. I mean, it's like they see the logic. Yeah, some people hate that electric drum sounds and they hate the heavy synthesizers. But yeah, it all comes down to a matter of taste, and you know, it's like I mean, if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. And now that you know about it, if you still push play, you only got yourself to blame.
Brilliant stuff. So when does the album come out over here?
The current date is 25th of February. Actually, I'm not sure how does it go with the vinyl, because I've heard that the COVID pandemic situation has created quite a problematic thing with the vinyls. So I've heard that the vinyls at least have been postponed by a month because they have problems with the with getting the actual records somewhere, because you know, I'm not sure why, but you know, apparently there's a huge demand in components and different kind of materials that, you know, you don't even come to think of when you start these kind of things. But yeah, we just hope that it doesn't affect the CD sales, so that we could get the album out 25th of February digitally and in the CD form as well.
Because did I see that there's also you've got a limited edition box set that comes with a handheld video game? Now that sounds great fun. What's the video game then?
It is. It's like it's a handheld device that you can see in the well, if you've seen the lyric video for Eyes of a Maniac, which is pretty much like you're just watching the screen. So that's how the idea came about. And to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what kind of games the device has in it. Where are you still there?
Yep.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what type of games does the handheld device contain. But I suspect that because the idea didn't come from the band. It was it was our record company's idea. And for once, a record company comes up with a brilliant idea. They came up with the idea, and what I've read, it's got like a collection of retro, old classic games, so that basically you can play more than one game with it.
Because
of course it's
I mean that does sound very 80s, but I would like to pull you up on the fact that you're talking about 80s. Now I was there in the 80s, and I was there playing. I remember going and playing Pac-Man and Space Invaders and Asteroids in the local paper shop, because it was the only place that had an arcade game. I'd argue that I don't think you were around in the 80s to actually remember playing those games, but
no, I mean, of course, I'm the generation that missed out on all that fun. But I'm old enough to remember, because all of my, this is pretty much my theory on why I do this type of things, because I was too young to actually take part into the 80s craziness and the late 80s fun. But I remember, because I had older cousins and friends, and you know, I don't have an older brother, but basically that's how I felt when I heard of all the older kids getting to go to an arcade with their parents, or go to a rock show, or you know, whatever kind of, like, you know, but I'm too young. I cannot go there. And when I was old enough, grunge had already ruined the whole fun for me. I mean, the whole 90s scene seemed so boring for me when I was a kid. So once I was old enough to do music myself, that's pretty much it. I had to recreate it, something that I missed out on.
No, I think my wife would agree with you, but perhaps a generation before. She probably grew up in the 80s, but would have much preferred growing up in the 70s, and that's what influenced her hugely. So I get that just because you didn't live through it doesn't mean you can't be heavily influenced by it.
But what comes to the arcades, actually, it's the that's where I basically grew up, because that was the second coming of the arcades during the 90s or the early 90s. And especially in Finland, we had like a chain kind of thing called Pelikani, which was like it was in every city basically, so that you had the same franchise everywhere, and they had a collection of certain type of games with the pinball machines and Mortal Kombats and Sega rallies and Tekken 2, I think it was there, and of course the air hockey. And yeah, that's pretty much where I first heard rock and roll, because they played Guns N' Roses there.
Yes, this is true, isn't it? Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for that chat. It was lovely to see you. I'm very upset that I won't see you in a few weeks' time, but nevertheless, we will see you in a few months' time.
So sorry to be sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but in 6 months, I promise you, it will be worth it. It will be worth the wait.
And I think the problem is, I think for me, I'd love to come and see you on tour. I'd love to do this interview face to face, but I don't think I'd fully appreciated that. If you are coming over, you're probably not doing meet and greet. You're probably not doing face to face, because like you said, the chance, if one of you goes down with it, that's the whole tour gone. So I think if bands are coming over, that they're quite limited in what they can do.
Well, I mean, this is a grim kind of thing to hope for, but I mean, my logic kind of says that I hope that everybody in the band and in the tour crew actually goes through with the illness before we hit the tour, so that we were immune to it, so that we could actually do that. We could actually see people. We could actually go there and meet them. Because I mean, human contact is that we're missing. Everybody's missing out at this time, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's even more important to have good times, because the world has been in a miserable place for 2 years in a row. So I think this is the time to just go out and have fun and meet people, because that's what we all need. This is not worth it anymore. Where some people are starting to get like mentally broken down by this, like solitude and like being by themselves and just talking to a camera, basically. Even though it's lovely to see your face as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much. I must admit, I'm thoroughly enjoying the singles I've got, and I am very intrigued to hear the album to see what I think of it. But like you say, I think it's one of these having based on.
I hope that you get. I mean,
yes, and I think I do. I think I'm already buying into the. Initially, I thought this is different. Am I going to like this? And I think the answer is yes, because I've already played Turborider at least 3 or 4 times on the show. So yeah,
awesome.
I'm intrigued by the album, so I look forward to getting that.
The core essence is still there. It's still all about fun.
Yeah.
So take it take it like that. It's going to be fun.
And I'll tell my daughter that dog's bad, cat's good, and I'm completely behind that, because under constant pressure to get a dog. No, we got a cat. It's lovely. I think you're either a dog or a cat person. The cat comes and sits on me. I stroke the cat. I ignore the cat ignores me. That's fine.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Cool,
all right,
stuff.
Cheers, Chad.
Would you mind doing a very quick ident just for the radio show?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Chas Byrne Express FM.
Hey, this is Ollie from Reckless Love, and you're listening to Chas Byrne on, what was it?
Express FM.
Express FM. All right.
It.
Hey, it's Ollie Herman from Reckless Love, and you're listening to Chas Byrne on Express FM.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you ever so much. Lovely to have a chat to you, sir. Thoroughly looking forward to getting the album, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks very much. See you too. It was a pleasure.
You. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.